Welcome to Shotcallers, and today is a very special day because it is our 1-year anniversary, and we are fortunate enough to have Ted McGrath here. He's a theater performer, speaker, and best-selling author. He has created 5 household brands and made millions teaching coaches, speakers, and service-based business owners how to turn their life story and life experience into a lucrative business that impacts millions and makes millions. Ted brings a unique approach to coaching, speaking, transformation, and information marketing by combining his business marketing strategies and his transformational skill set with his talent as a performer. Now, not only is Ted one of the highest paid consultants in the industry, he is also a theater performer of the smash hit one-man show called Good Enough, where he plays 15 characters on stage from his life story. He is on a mission to combine the impact of entertainment industry and transformation industry to unite the two most powerful industries and influencers on the planet for the greater good. Ted, I am so glad to have you here. Thank you for coming on the show. Very excited.
Pleasure, man. It's great to be here, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I want you to know, so I looked up, I always check out when I'm following somebody and when I've been a client of theirs. And so the first time that I was introduced to you, I signed up back in March 10th, 2013. I signed up for a webinar on how to build lucrative and lifestyle-friendly coaching business.
My God.
So since then, I've gotten many of the programs, your book, and Message to Millions and all that. So very big fan. And one of the reasons I love what you do is because back in 2013, I feel like a lot of people in our industry were, they didn't walk the walk first. And that's what I love about everything you do. You walk the walk, not just talk it. You've experienced it. So that's why you resonated with me. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. It's great to be here.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to jump right in and find out, tell us about some of the early days and when your career in insurance and sales, and how that turned into business and becoming a sales entrepreneur.
Yeah, we're starting in the insurance life.
Yeah. If you don't mind.
Yeah. I started in the insurance business. I was 21 years old, and I didn't really have a better idea of what I wanted to do. I was fresh out of college. My dad, we were going to go into business with him, but then he really struggled. And so, at that point I needed to make some money and get a job. So, I walked into New York Life, and, initially when I took the interview, I was so desperate. I was just like, yeah, I'll be there. And, I walk off the elevator, and, I had kind of a creative writer in me, my whole life that I kind of just suppressed and pushed down a little bit. But around that time, as I was exploring, I was kind of doing a few interviews with some companies about writing and stuff like that. And so when I got off the elevator, I walked in and I thought, oh, New York Life. I was like, oh, it must be a magazine, and only to find out it was an insurance company. And I had nothing better to do. So I went in and sat in on the interview, and the guy who interviewed me, asked me one question, and we talked for like 4 hours, and wow. And we just clicked, and he hired me, and we're still best friends to this day, 20 years later. And wow. And it's cool. And so, I started out at 21, and, I was successful. I cracked 6 figures at 21 to 22. And then, I went out that night and OD'd from, drugs, like a bag of cocaine, a couple pills of ecstasy, 15 drinks. And, it was pretty much a standard weekend in terms of the drinking. Yeah. The drugs got a little bit out of hand. Mm-hmm. And then I'm on the kitchen floor, 4 in the morning, and, my soul's coming out of my body, and I'm dying. And, you wake up the next day, and, for me, it was more of, at that point I was having the opportunity to get promoted into partner. So with the company, so they were staging me for that. And I just stopped doing drugs. Most people will say, what, you fear of dying again? I would say fear of dying was second. First was fear of losing my job. Right. When you get into like a leadership position, things change a little bit. So yeah, that's what I did for 5-6 more years in New York Life, became one of the top partners in the company. And, that was that.
Wow. So I guess what was the itch that made you switch from, because obviously you were looking for something more. So talking to our viewers here, what was the point where you were like, I want to do something different, or I have a passion for something? Because you're obviously making great money, big success. As terms of financially, but there was something that was, kind of digging in that made you want to go get more, I should say.
Yeah. Probably like 2 or 3 months in,
Oh, wow.
It's, I think deep down, I think people know what they want to do right away.
Sure.
I think a lot of times people just don't look at it, or they think they can't do it. And, they think they're not enough to do it, or they're just following societal, I would say norms, pressures, but also just what they see, what's in your environment. You go, okay, well, this is what my life's going to be because everybody around me is doing it. So for me, it was more, I always had a performer in me. I always had an actor in me. That's my core purpose to this day. The play you're talking about now, the Good Enough to Play, it's on my life story. We're turning it into a feature film. So we've got funding for the film. We're starting casting like in a week or two, and it's going to be an extraordinary film. So, deep down inside, I had that inside of me at a young age. I did some performances as a kid, very, very nothing formal, but I was doing things like that I always loved, and I found it inspired me. So, and even when I played athletics in college, like I think I played baseball and I was always center stage on the mound. When I played tennis, it was just me and I was always center stage. So, that's a form of communication too, even though you're not using your words, you're expressing yourself, right? And your power in the world, and, who you are in the world and your skill. So, when I got into the insurance business, I went there for the relationship with my friend, who was my boss at the time and a stranger. But, once we started doing seminars, I remember the first seminar I ever did, we had like 40 people come, and, we sent out a mailer and a bunch of people showed up for a dinner. And, in doing it, my whole focus was actually how good of a story I was going to tell up there. So I created this story and I started to tell the story. And my only real interest up there is kind of funny. If you look at it, my only real interest up there is to tell a great story.
Right.
And even to this day at my seminars, it's an interesting thing. I do my play, and it's the thing that I perform. I rehearse the most for before the seminar, which most people would think for 4 days, you got to get up there and talk, and then you got to make a pitch. And, most people go through their pitch religiously. I glance it over and get up and do it. I don't prepare any of the content because I know how to speak. I know the content. And then as a performer, when you do a play, doing speaking after that is probably the easiest thing in the world to be able to do. So I've always wanted to tell the story, and it's always been more important to me than the money. And it's not that I don't want the money, like I love the money, but even when I was doing those seminars, I wanted to do the story even more so than I wanted to make the sales.
Wow.
So that's kind of an indicator of like, okay, this was showing itself at a very, very young age. And I was choosing that, choosing, let's go do seminars. There were 70, 80 people in that office. 21 years old, I was the number 4 producer, and people used to, sometimes look at me and go, oh, Ted, the golden boy. But, the thing that I always looked at is like everybody else in that office had the same opportunity. Like when the opportunity came up to speak, they could have done that. They could have built a relationship with Mo. He could have liked them a lot because they were persistent, but most of them weren't. And that's the reality of it. And I had the ability to persevere in the face of that. And so to answer your question, I found storytelling way before that. but I found storytelling in my career in the insurance business, which actually was a stepping stone to actually doing theater now.
Wow.
And acting.
Wow. And how many years have you done the play now?
7 years.
I was going to say it's been a long time. Wow. That's exciting.
Yeah. We just did a run for 6 weeks, which was amazing. It's so funny. I was looking back at like, I'm not very active on like social media, Instagram. We advertise a lot. So people probably see our ads if they know us.
Mm-hmm.
We spend $180,000 a month in advertising, but I'm starting to get involved in social media. It's a big initiative for us this year. And I was looking back through my Instagram stuff the other day, and it's like scrolling down and like, what have I posted? And I was looking, I was like, wow. And I looked at the 6-week run. I was like, and I was just smiling. And I remember how much fun that was for 6 weeks doing my play nonstop. And it was a great experience. And, before, the coronavirus and all that, we got the Edinburgh Festival, which is the biggest film festival, play theater festival in the world. We were scheduled for that. So now we're rescheduled for 2021. My play became a finalist for the Rave Festival in New York. So I'm waiting to see if we get selected for that, which is a pretty big deal. So that's cool. And then we're going to do the Fringe Festival here in Los Angeles whenever they do that again in 2021. So, the play has evolved massively, but then the play was another stepping stone to the film.
Okay.
And I think that's the message that I would have for people listening is, you can do it one of two ways. You can take the stepping stones, being on the outside or the outskirts of what you want to do, or you can just dive right into it.
Right.
And sometimes I can speak personally for myself. I was so confused of like, what am I here to actually do? I was so, trying things to feel a certain way, like success and money and drugs. And I was searching for what is that purpose that's core to me. And I started to find pieces of it. I didn't know that the world of theater existed for somebody like me until I saw somebody do a one-man play. And then I was like, oh, I thought theater was Broadway and all these things that you go see, which my personal opinion is like, I enjoy certain things on Broadway. It's just never spoken to me in a way that a one-person play has, where somebody tells the truth of their life story. So that's kind of been the journey,
That's really awesome. That's excellent. How soon until we get the feature film out? Do we have a deadline?
It's a good question. It got pushed back a little bit. I think the goal is to film in November. Basically, the casting will start in a week or two, which is, we're on like the 8th draft from the vision of having this. January last year is when I had the vision. And, I remember specifically, I started working with my coach, from my theater coach, and he's a big deal on Broadway, Phantom of the Opera on Broadway, Beauty and the Beast. Like, he was the star in all those. Amazing guy. Wow. So he started directing my play about a year and a half ago. And I had the vision then, where he came for like our second rehearsal, and he came over to my house. He's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, this is like, this is like a writer, and this is like a film financer." And he and I had just talked about the idea of the film, and next thing you know, boom, like I got people there. Wow. And then he introduced me to some relationships to start opening the doors, and we got one writer, and then he did a good job of helping us get our feet wet, and then we just did 4 more drafts. He did 3 drafts, we did 4 more, so we're on like our 7th or 8th draft of the script. Okay. And it's really good, man. My buddy who wrote it, he's my acting coach. He's done a really good job, and we've had so much fun creating it. Just so much fun together, the collaboration, and that's the thing that I want to say to everybody. The deadline probably is November for the movie, but to film it. But the thing I want to say is that, like, make sure you pick the right relationships. When I did it in the insurance business, I picked the right person. Mm-hmm. Still my best friend to this day. When I had the opportunity to do this film, I had some other directors I was going to go with, many other writers too, and interviewed a lot of different people. Was almost across the finish line with one of the directors. Great guy, still fantastic guy, awesome guy. But there was something where we weren't fully vibing on my story. You could tell that he had something where he just wasn't fully there. And I went with a less seasoned person as my director and my writer, as a less seasoned person, but I chose it for the chemistry.
Right.
And I knew his ability because as working with me as my acting coach, and I knew my comfort level with him, and I knew what he could pull out of me. And so I just went with my gut one day and said, hey, like, I know you're in TV, you're doing TV. You interested in directing this film, like throwing your hat in the ring? And now that was the end of the story, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's and you talk about like mentors, that's and relationships. I was fortunate enough to have a mentor as well at an early age when I started, and I see a lot of successful people. I think most of those people have that mentor at an early age, and I see that advance them so far. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously you appreciate it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mentors are good, like for different things that you want to learn. I think ultimately, the great goal is, I think the great goal is your own like spiritual growth and
Sure.
personal growth. And there's a lot of crazy stuff out there in relation to that. But I think you got to find what works for you and something that actually works. Yeah. And I think as you evolve with that, I think the greatest mentor you have is yourself, and where you start to think for yourself, Yeah. But then, of course, you get, there's great people who are knowledgeable in different subjects that you want to learn from. Or if you haven't been in business before, like my mentor, I had no experience at 21 years old in business. Right. Without him, there's no way I'm doing what I'm doing that first year, And it's just the idea that nobody does it alone, even in doing a one-man play, you're up there alone, but you have a whole team of people that are supporting you, if you start the film, you got a whole cast, the efforts going in with the amazing people I have around me right now, and really, truly amazing people in the entertainment industry, just great people, good people, you know what I'm saying? Like ethical people. And you got to have that. And so that, to me, that's the number one thing of decider of anything. Like pick those people first, and the rest will, you'll work the rest out with them.
Yeah. And it's very refreshing having those type of people around you as well.
Yeah. It's funny. We were joking the other day, and like, I'm kind of shielded from the entertainment industry. I just see the good in situations. And then of course I'm also trained to see when something's out, like, okay, there's something about this person that we need to, that there's an issue here. We probably don't want this person on our team or in our group. And you just got to be able to spot that. But for the majority, people are really good people, And I've always attracted good people. And that's what we have in our group. And we were joking the other day, like, wow, this is such a great positive group, but not positive from the sense of, oh, you're really good. And, and they're stabbing you in the back behind your back. Positive from the sense of like constructive, when everybody wants to give their thoughts, and positive from the sense of like everybody respects one another,
Yeah, that's terrific. That's great. And on that, with you're very confident, and you teach confidence in a way that I love, not only in your book, but in what you do. What would you say for like entrepreneurs? How can they gain more confidence and bring it to the table with that? Because a lot of them, that's one factor that they're missing, and it's a huge factor. So,
yeah, a lot of it's life experience, I think that's one thing that's huge, is like, you got to do it. So I think that's part of it. Some of it's knowing, like it's what
Right.
like deep down, anybody can have uncertainty in a situation, right? Like you get into a situation where you run into somebody and you kind of like collide on something. Oh, you're certain you shaken. But if you have a strong point of view, then you're certain you won't be shaken with that.
Right.
That's one. But two, you run into situations where, maybe whatever, something's happening in the day and you're in that situation and you've lost your focus, or, you're whatever, and you might feel uncertain, but if you know that you can do it, and you really know, which is different to me than belief, knowing is just at your core. Like I know at my core that I can act. I just know that. It's just something that's been with me for whatever your beliefs are, for many lifetimes for me. And so, when I sit there and, do stuff with my acting coach, I also have to have somebody who believes in me as well, because if you have somebody else there who's counter to that, that's going to affect you. So I think the biggest thing that knocks people off is when you have people in your environment who are invalidating you, you're going to think less of yourself if you're not trained to smack them over the head a little bit. If you hear somebody say that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, and so, you know, you gotta be able to handle stuff like that. Like, you know, I've had people at my play come to my play, and, you know, you have those great people in the room, and you have, you know, in any room, you'll have a few people that are just, you can spot them from a mile away, you know? And I remember seeing this one time with a guy, and I could spot him coming, you know? I could spot his emotional tone and look at him, and I just knew, I was like, oh, this guy's a problem. And sure enough, like, he wanted to come, like, project on me and give me feedback, and you know, and I was just very polite and said, hey, thanks so much, man, I appreciate it. I know you're probably about to give me feedback right now. And he's like, how'd you know? You know, you know, and I could spot it. And I said, no, it's great, you know, but I work with my coach, and that's why I hired him. I pay him to give him feedback, and I choose who gives me feedback or not. But thanks so much for coming. Appreciate it. You know, so I think you have to be able to protect your space. You have to be able to spot who are the good guys and who are the you know, and then who's small. You know, like I said before, a very small percentage of people are not the good guys.
Yeah.
But you got to also spot the people who are confused. It doesn't mean they're not good. They're just confused, you know? And, you know, that's kind of how I run my life.
Yeah. That's a very good way of putting it. And on that, with you're so good on video, what kind of, do you have any tips? And I know you have a great swipe file out right now that I picked up on YouTube and on one of your ads. But what advice do you have to those people who are so scared to get in front of that video? I mean, because you've made great videos for a very, very long time. Do you just say, just go for it, or what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I still have that sometimes on video. Like, you know, all of a sudden the camera's in your face and you're live. You're like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, like, you shoot as like a bean, you go back into like, whoa, you know, and then all of a sudden you got to push your attention and yourself out to, you know, project to the people and to impinge upon somebody. So that's just knowing and for me, training of, like, you know, if I'm in a seminar room and I realize I'm only reaching somebody to the first row, I know that I can then project out and reach people in the back row. And I don't mean my voice. For me, I mean as a being. I'm a spiritual being. I can fill the room. So I can literally, if I want to go into the back room where I'm standing on stage, I can literally go there spiritually and boom, you know, impinge upon somebody in the back. So I understand that. I know that about myself, and that's pretty much what I do. On camera, it's the same thing, you know, and you know, it's practice and confronting it. You know, if you're gonna you know, do a video with this iPhone, you know, like, you know, you got to pick it up and be there with the iPhone, you know, because it's just the lens,
right?
Like, well, what are people worried about, you know? It's just a lens, right? So, but then if you go live, then you have eyeballs watching you, so you have the willingness to confront that. And then you also got to realize that, you know, you're always going to have people who make some negative comments.
Sure.
It's always going to be there, just like, you know, and it's rare that I ever say all the time, you know, or everybody, but I don't see a time at this point in this lifetime where you're going to put something out where you're not going to have people who are negative about it.
Right.
So you got to just learn to deal with that, and, you know, not even pay attention to the comments on it, and just, you know, just send your message. And I would also say, just, like, know what you want to say, you know, like, have 3 bullet points you want to talk about and just talk, you know, and if you're not confident, just practice before you even go live or before you go on video. Do it 100 times. Yeah,
exactly. That's great advice. Great advice. What do you think what do you think now? I mean, we have a lot of spotlight on entrepreneurship right now, and everybody wanting to be an entrepreneur, and I love entrepreneurship. Do you have any advice for those who want to get started? And do you think that they should jump in right away? Or what would be, I mean, because I look at my path and looked at, had things not working out the way they did, I don't know, had I not gotten the core business model, do you think they should start there in like an entrepreneurship or working for somebody else, or you think they should dive in, or what's your advice, I guess?
I think they just need to make a decision that's best for them. Like everybody's situation is different. It's like, so I was in the insurance business with no kids, no wife. And I was in a situation where it was, I was critical of where I was at for years, which was, my fault. The company was a great company.
Yeah.
If I didn't like it, I should have just left. And there were a lot of things that I did like about it and I did enjoy about it. I was just immature and young and doing stupid stuff. So at the end of the day, I just left because it was like, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I knew deep down inside there was something more for me. I knew that I had an entrepreneur in me. I had somebody who wanted to go do something, but more wanted to do something that I was passionate about that was going to bring me fulfillment,
Yeah.
So I just jumped, like we had a plan of like a transition plan, 6-7 months. And then one day I just called my mentor and my buddy and I just said, listen, I'm out, dude. Gone. And I just left. I didn't have a plan. We had a plan. We were starting a business, but not a solid plan. So I think, you have to determine what your risk level is. And, when you leave something, like the need to succeed in it is high.
Right.
So, you kind of got to determine that. Do I regret the way that I left? No. Maybe I never would have if I waited and waited and waited.
Right.
So I jumped and I broke the damn, the rope when I jumped, or the parachute, and that was fine for me at the time. Do I do things differently now? Yeah, to some degree. But when I wanted to do a play, I saw somebody do it. I was like, I'm going to do my own version of it without any coaching or anything. Got up on stage and flopped around like a dead fish and embarrassed the hell out of myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah.
You learn and you go do it. I'm about to go do a movie and we're training and getting ready for it. And I'm sure I'll have some experiences there. Like, whoa, I didn't expect that, or that was new for me. I know I'll be able to handle them, but I'm jumping in and I'm not just going into a movie. I'm starring in my first film ever, which is my film. So that's just kind of my style. I'm at the point where I want to go into something fully.
Right.
But, you got to decide, and you got to look at your responsibilities of what you have going on in your life and everything that you need to fulfill. But, ultimately, if you think you have responsibilities now, I think as you grow, you have more and more responsibilities.
Right.
Just for your family and not just for yourself, but your responsibilities for, your groups and mankind, and making sure that you do good things in the world to help. I'm a big proponent of Drug-Free World, which is the largest non-governmental education-based drug initiative on the planet, to educate people on what the truth about drugs is. And I raise a lot of money for it, and every event that I do and shows that I do, I promote it. I play a big role because drugs is destroying our society, particularly in America.
Yeah.
We're one of the worst with it. So I'm very big on that, and there's nothing in it for me in terms of financial benefits or gains. There's just the responsibility of, I want to help mankind, and I went through that. But more so, I just see how bad it is.
Yeah.
It's not as much of the personal thing. I'm not affected by the personal aspect of drugs, from cocaine and all that stuff, even though that's a big thing we talk about. But I'm also very big from the perspective of the psychiatric drugs.
Yeah.
Are running rampant, and they're just misused and abused for a big percentage of the population. And that to me, that a lot of that stuff is just, it's a problem,
Yeah. I love that too. You get that moment of satisfaction, and then that hunger comes back. And because that's one of the things that always scares me is, I always think about, I do compare it, like you said, I know what I'm capable of. And if you really imagine what you're capable of, that's one of those things where you're like, other people may be, oh, wow, that's amazing you did that. And you're like, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I know I could be doing this. And that's always in the back of your mind. It's like a driver for me, but so.
Yeah, I think everybody, everybody's different. And I think you just, like, for me personally, I got to know what's true for me. And
Yep.
so, like, if somebody thinks it's great, I'm flattered that they think it's great. I think it's great. And it's nice to get a compliment where somebody flows a little power and admiration to you and they go, hey, that was amazing. It's
Yeah.
nice. And then you have to go internally and go, well, did I feel like I was amazing with it? And if I did, that's great, And if I didn't, I was like, okay, well, it's a nice compliment, but I know for myself, like, what was true for me, and I'll take the compliment and appreciate it,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have anything else you want to add to our viewers at all, or anything else you want to throw in there?
No, I'm looking at that Never Be Closing book. I'm like, I should at our next event, I gotta print copies for that.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see it. I haven't seen a copy of it in a long time.
Yeah.
But I would say, no, I think my final words are, I think I've said enough, and that's pretty much it, you know?
Well, one thing I'll add to the Never Be Closing book. So I have my paper copy that I completely ripped up, you know, tore apart and, you know, putting all the earmarks on and highlighting. Yeah. I love it. And then I have this is my professional copy where I put on my bookshelf. So it's
cool.
my teaching one, and then I have my other one. So, yeah.
That's cool, buddy. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you very much.
Well, and what's the best way to contact you for everyone?
You can go to Ted McGrath Brands, like brands.com. So Ted McGrath, TEDMCGRATH.
Okay.
Brands, brands.com. And, you know, go check it out. We have a bunch of content on there and stuff. Most of our stuff is done through funnels. So I'm sure if you go to our website, we'll probably retarget you, and then you'll see all of our stuff online, which is the more relevant stuff when we're advertising. Yeah. But you can go check out the website, and there's some free stuff on there. You can check it out, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Chad, for being our 1-year anniversary show. We appreciate it. Yeah, well, thank you very much, and we appreciate you being on.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, brother.
Yep, thank you.